Sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rocks are the most common rocks exposed on Earth's surface, about 3/4, but are only a minor constituent of the entire crust, which is dominated by igneous and metamorphic rocks. Sedimentary rocks can form in several ways, and are classified as clastic, chemical, and organic, based on how they form. Clastic sedimentary rocks are primarily classified based on their grain size and come from other rocks. Chemical sedimentary rocks, one example is if you have a body of water containing dissolved salt and then that water evaporates, it will leave behind the salt as a solid mineral form called a precipitate. Organic sedimentary rocks form from the accumulation of organic debris. Sedimentary rock formation comes from weathering, erosion, deposition, compaction, and lithification. Weathering refers to the various processes of physical disintegration and chemical decomposition that occur when rocks at Earth's surface are exposed to the atmosphere, mainly in the form of rainfall, and the hydrosphere. These processes produce soil, unconsolidated rock or detritus rock, and components dissolved in groundwater and runoff. The most common way sedimentary rocks form is when other rocks weather into small particles and are transported by wind, water, or ice to an area where they are deposited and form layers. Erosion. Erosion is the process by which weathering products are transported away from the weathering site, either as a solid material or as dissolved components, eventually to be deposited as sediment. Any unconsolidated deposit of solid weathered material constitutes sediment. It can form as the result of the deposition of grains from moving bodies of water or wind, from melting of glacial ice, and from the downslope slumping or sliding of rock and soil masses in response to gravity, as well as precipitation of the dissolved products of weathering under the conditions of low temperature and pressure that prevail at or near the surface of Earth. These processes produce soil, unconsolidated rock, and components dissolved in groundwater and runoff. The deposition environments can be continental, transitional, and marine. I've included a chart for you to use to study by. The last steps are compaction and lithification. In all cases, sediments need to be buried so that lithification process can take place. There are two steps involved in turning sediment into sedimentary rock: compaction and cementation. When grains are deposited, they typically have empty spaces between them called pores. Compaction reduces porosity and by bringing the grains closer together. What's causing the compaction is the accumulation of more sediment on top of the previously deposited material. The more sediment that gets piled on top, the more compact the sediment beneath it becomes. Cementation is a process that happens during compaction. As sediments become compacted, water is squeezed out of the pore spaces. As the water leaves the sediment, it precipitates minerals into those pore spaces, acting as a glue that holds the sediment together. The common minerals that make up the cement are calcite, quartz, and pyrite. Lithification or diagenesis. Lithification is the process that turns sediment into rock. The first stage of the process is compaction. Compaction occurs as weight of the overlying material increases. Compaction forces the grains closer together, reducing the pore space and eliminating some of the contained water. Some of this water may carry mineral components in solution, and these constituents may later precipitate as new minerals in the pore spaces. This causes cementation, which then which will then start to bind the individual particles together. I hope you enjoyed this. Good luck on your final.